Okay, guys, welcome back to the Vulnerability School podcast. Today we have Brieocea.
Hi.
Yes, we're so happy you're here. And she has an incredible story. I am so excited. There is just so much to this beautiful human that we are going to unpack today, and we're going to just feel some of her light.
Aw. So I always get so nervous before these. So just so you know, I'm a little bit nervous. So if you hear that.
Same girl, same.
Okay.
Don't worry. Sweating bullets already, always. Yeah, we have so much to get into. And I kind of want to do a little bit of an intro about how I know you and kind of our story.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so I didn't know about you before literally Christmas party, Jimmy Rex's Christmas party in December.
Yes.
And I remember I saw you and I was like, she is so beautiful. I'm like, boyfriend, don't look at her. You know, like she's so beautiful. But I was like, I want to talk to her. Like she's friends with Ayers. We have a mutual friend. And I was like, she must be cool, you know?
Aww.
And so then we followed each other on Instagram.
Yes.
And then I watched one of your reels and I saw like your story about your son drowning and just like this very tragic loss for you, like being so young. And it was crazy because you really don't know anyone's story. Like we look at people like you're such a beautiful girl. I would have never expected something like that had happened to you, you know? And so I was just like, wow, like she has really been through it. And I just was like, yeah, I'm just so happy we met. It was so cool. I feel like there's so much depth to every piece of your story. And so I want to go about it in like the very best way possible. And I kind of want to start with your childhood because I feel like, you know, ages 0 to 8 years old, like that's where we learn 80% of our beliefs. And so I feel like so much that you've gone through like also has to do with that, you know, who you are to your core.
Totally.
And so before we get into like, your story of your son and that experience, I would love to kind of dive deep into who you are and like how you grew up.
Ooh, all right. Put on the spot.
Yes.
Okay. So I was adopted through my stepdad.
Okay.
So my biological dad had left when I was a baby, like I must have been 1 or 2. And my mom was pregnant with my brother at this time. So there was a lot going on at that time. And I didn't realize until recently that had actually been a major abandonment wound for me for my whole life, especially when it comes to men.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
So my stepdad, she had met him, and he's actually my dad. He adopted me. And he's been an absolute wonderful influence for me my whole life. But it's been a little bit hard for me, honestly, because the way he connects is very much, he's there for me. He's a provider. I can call him anytime I like need anything, but he's not emotional in the way of like cuddly or huggy.
Totally.
Or he just doesn't connect that way, which is totally fine. And I thought that, you know, was normal and great. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually have this wound of not being able to really connect with men on that deep, vulnerable way. And so I would say that's something I'm actually working through today. And I'm kind of digging into that. And that's something with Romeo. Like he too, you know, when he passed away, that really triggered my abandonment wound that I have. And any relationships I've had with guys and those breakups or any of that has been something I've been going through for sure.
And I feel like especially the first man that was supposed to love you like more than anyone didn't.
Right.
And so that's like your first experience with a man.
Yes.
Which is hard.
Totally. And I remember my first love, I was 16 years old. His name is Matt Warren. And he moved actually from Utah to California, and it broke me. Like falling in love with this guy, my heart was wide open, right? But then him leaving had triggered that abandonment wound that I didn't really know was there. I honestly didn't think I cared that much that my dad had left. Like it didn't really bother me, right? But looking back, I'm like, holy crap, like that threw me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been pretty crazy. I would also say that being in my childhood, my mom was going through it, right? Like she had 2 kids, her husband left, and now she's remarried, but she's going to school full time. and she's working full time. And so me being the oldest daughter, I had a lot of responsibility. And I definitely took care of my brothers. I have 3 brothers. Took care of the house, took care of like any cooking that needed to be done, that type of thing. So I think today I'm kind of like, holy cow, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Just like really tired of all the responsibility all the time.
Yeah. Something I think a lot about, like regarding that is that I feel I had like a pretty chaotic childhood, and sometimes I don't feel like I was able to fully just be a child, you know, with all that was going on. And I think that's like, you're probably the same. And so now it's like, okay, I'm ready to like relax, you know, I'm ready to chill.
Yes.
Like I need this, I didn't get this. And now it's my time, especially being the oldest. Like
definitely being the oldest is huge with that.
I feel like in that time, like our parents just like mental health and bettering yourself in these ways, like it just wasn't a thing, you know, like it was taboo. Like if you were in therapy, it was like, well, are you okay?
I know. You know? And you got to give them credit because they were doing their best with what they had.
Yeah.
They didn't have the same resources we have. We have social media. We're able to learn from everybody right now. It's insane.
Yeah.
So, you know, like they were doing their best. And I wanted to say too, like with my dad, so my biological dad, he's actually homeless right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's been like, I don't even know how to process that. I think when something happens and you just don't even know how to like touch that, right? It just feels like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah. You grew up this way. Do you feel like you're very comfortable in chaos? Like, do you have a hard time like feeling comfortable when things are stable?
I don't know. I've never looked at it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I feel like I have a really hard time with that.
Yeah.
You know?
Huh, interesting.
So do you have any relationship with him now or no?
Kind of. The last time I saw him, I was 17 and he like kind of popped in and we played tennis and it was fun.
Yeah.
But he's just not in a great place.
Yeah.
So.
And that's so hard on you.
Yeah.
Especially I feel like you're such a lover, like you just want to help him, but like you can't probably. And so it's like this weird.
Yeah. I honestly just don't even know how to touch it. I'm at the point to where I'm like, I just really need to help myself first.
Yeah.
And when I'm in a good place and I can help you, then I will.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's
even
good.
Process.
Putting yourself first. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to say too, with childhood stuff, like years ago, I didn't even feel like I really needed to look back and process any trauma I had because I didn't want to be a victim and all of that. And I honestly had a great childhood. But now as an adult, it's actually so important to look back because it has a huge impact on your whole adult life and all of your relationships today and how you process things, like you said. So I definitely wanted to put that in there because my childhood was awesome. It was great.
And no matter who you are, I feel like trauma is like the way that you process things. So kind of the story that you tell yourself, and it doesn't even matter if like things were so great. We all had these experiences that shaped us, you know, into who we are today that we have to work through.
Yes, for sure. So I've heard you said something about ages 0 to 8. What did you say?
That like 80% of our beliefs are developed from ages 0 to 8.
Yeah. So I've heard you are in a constant state of hypnosis from 0 to 8. Yes. Which is insane.
Yeah. Wow.
So you can't even really think for yourself yet.
It is so wild. You know, like that totally shapes us and it kind of scares me. You know, I'm sure with your daughter, you're probably like,
oh yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, totally. Okay. And so then like, so throughout your life, you've been processing probably this relationship with your dad without even knowing it maybe.
Yeah, totally. Without knowing it.
Yeah.
I didn't really know that I had daddy issues until recently. And I'm like, I should probably work on this.
Totally. And it's crazy because it really does affect everything.
It does, totally. And for me, it affects totally my relationship I have with men.
And like the love that you think you deserve too.
Yeah.
It's a lot to work through. I can relate.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so then you had this boyfriend and then he left in high school. Is there anything else you want to share from your childhood?
Nothing is really coming up to mind.
Okay.
I would say I'm definitely, I have people pleasing tendencies. I like to make sure that everybody is safe and everybody is okay. And that came from my childhood, right? Because I feel like I had a lot of responsibility and it was my job to make sure that the boys were fed and doing their chores and da 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 da. And then I also felt the most safe when I knew that my mom was good and happy and all of that. So that's something I'm processing today.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It is like literally so much for you to process. Like, I feel like your story is so much more than what happened just with Romeo, but like just this whole lifetime of like trying to figure yourself out. And then like this experience happens and it's just like.
Right. Yeah. And that's something we're all going through, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has their own unique sets of challenges and difficulties to help wake us up.
Yeah.
And to help us learn and to evolve into the best versions of ourselves.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Thanks.
Okay. So tell us, and then kind of like leading up to Romeo, like what was your life like in between?
Okay. I get really nervous when people get so interested in my life. So I'm like, oh, what do I say here?
Yes.
So I had met Romeo's father in high school. And we were really good friends. He was always like just a friend that made me feel really warm and happy. I never considered dating him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, but after so we were friends for years. And then after high school, I honestly wasn't in the best position in my life. I had left the church at 16.
Okay.
So
did you grow up pretty Mormon?
Yeah.
Okay.
I grew up LDS, left the church at 16 and kind of went through a little bit of a rebellious phase, right?
Was it just like it didn't align with you or you didn't like what was the reasoning?
So we can go back to that first boyfriend that I was talking about. He wasn't LDS.
Okay.
And that had a big impact on me because I felt like I was constantly trying to force my beliefs onto him. And that had it was like hard in our relationship. I had constantly felt guilty about like little things or like him touching my boobs or whatever it was. And I would not only feel guilty myself, but I would make him feel guilty about it.
Totally.
And
been there. I get it.
Yeah. And I didn't feel like myself. And so when he had left and we had broken up, I really, like I told you, that hit me so hard, like way harder than, breakups are hard, but like way harder than I would even expect.
Yeah.
And it really made me kind of rethink everything. And I rethought like the church. And I was like, wow, I had this beautiful relationship with this guy that I had felt guilty for 90% of that time. And that just didn't sit well with me. And so my family, actually, my parents had left at this point too. So I felt very safe with them and being like, okay, I want to go and see really what is out there for me.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to kind of discover more of who I am versus being kind of told to be. And so for me, that kind of looked a little bit rebellious. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start drinking coffee now.
Oh yeah. And LDS rebellious.
LDS rebellion. I'm going to start drinking coffee right now. I might start wearing like tank tops that show a little bit of midriff. Yes. But I didn't really get that rebellious until after high school. And this goes into what I was saying with, I was not in the best place. And I don't want to say this is because I left the church and lost my way.
Yeah.
But I was really trying to rediscover what life was about, right? Like when you grow up with these hardened values that you're kind of told you need to have, and then you discover within yourself, okay, that might not be true.
Yeah.
You're left wondering, what is true?
Yeah.
Like, what do I believe? What's okay and what's not? So I found myself in this place where I wanted to experience things, and I was partying a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Okay. I was 20, 21. So if you're going to do it, like, that's a great age to do that. And this is when Caden had kind of like come back into my life. Caden's my children's father. And he was, like I said, a best friend I had in high school, or a really good friend. So he had kind of come back in when I wasn't in the best place in my life. I was just partying too much and just wasn't the healthiest within my body and my soul. And so I felt very aligned with him at that point to start a relationship. And he had actually helped me and helped guide me out of that place. And I'm always going to be so grateful for him. We were very young. I think when we started dating, I must have been like 18 and he was 17. Or I must have been 20. I don't know.
It's fine. It's all a blur. I get it.
Yeah, it's a blur. But we were both really young, and our relationship wasn't perfect. But
at that age, you don't even know like communication skills. Like there's not a guidebook that we at least looked into. Like it's just so much drama. I feel like,
I know. Yeah. I had no idea what I was doing back then. And I still don't, but I know a little bit more than I did.
Same.
But yeah, like our relationship was bumpy. We were young, but we really loved each other. And I still have that deep love for him, like family. Like I really do consider him family. So we were dating for a year when we got pregnant with Romeo. And this was actually on accident.
Okay.
It was one of those like meant to be things, because I was on birth control.
Wow.
Yes, I was on birth control.
Oh, wait, how old were you again?
I must have been 21.
Okay.
Yeah. 21. 21.
Did you guys have like good jobs, or like where were we living?
We were living at his parents' basement.
Okay.
So we were like pretty broke.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
Totally.
Yeah. I must have been coaching tennis at the time or something, but like it was not easy. Like we weren't really prepared, but it was a meant to be thing. So I got pregnant accidentally, and we were excited about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It was like one of those things that we were like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
And we felt really good about it. Like we weren't financially set up or prepared in any kind of way, but we were like, all right, we're pregnant, let's go. And Romeo, my child's name, when he came into this world, he just completely rocked me. And this was actually 2020. So this is when the whole world was being rocked.
Yeah, totally.
Totally. And giving birth to him, like, opened me up in this whole new way where I was having a really intense spiritual awakening at that point. Yeah. I think a lot of people were at that point, just kind of like rethinking like, okay, what's going on here? So with him, I was like, I just gave birth to this beautiful human, and it was like, where did you come from? Like, you are the most important person to me ever. Did you just come out of thin air?
Yeah.
Like it just made me totally re-question and look deeper into life and into everything on a whole new level.
Yeah.
And like, that's something I'll always thank him for. So
was your boyfriend at this, like he was out of the church, and like, were you guys on the same page with all of that?
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely. Yeah. He was out of the church as well. And yeah, I think that him and I work really well as parents together. Like we both have a lot of similar parenting styles. And so
cool.
we work great as co-parents too.
Yeah.
But so giving birth to him was crazy. And Caden at this time was working in solar. So we were moving around everywhere. And that's when we went to California, and we were living in California for solar. And I was a stay-at-home mom with Romeo. We were, like I said, pretty broke. And so we're in this apartment complex. I don't have a car. Caden's driving my car for work.
Damn, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like stranded at this apartment complex, out of state from all my family and friends, with this little boy who I'm obsessed with. And I am so grateful looking back. I had that much alone time with him.
Yeah.
Like it's wonderful. I'm so grateful for that. But there wasn't a lot to do at that apartment complex. There was a teeny little park and then a pool. So I would take him to the park every day. I'd take him on walks multiple times a day. And then I would also take him to the pool almost every single day.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually the pool where the accident happened.
So you guys are living in California.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're in California.
Did you like always have, I feel like me, such an anxious person, when I think about kids, I'm always like, something's going to happen to them. Something's going to happen to them. Did you like always have that feeling, or like, did you feel like you were just able to like enjoy your time with him?
It's really weird because his whole life, I was always worried about him dying.
Wow.
Yeah. And I thought every mom felt like that.
Yeah.
And I remember even like this one time I was in my room and I fell to my knees just in tears. And he's about a year old at this point. And I was like bargaining with God. And I was telling him, don't take my baby, because I knew that something would happen. And I, at that point, had hoped that it was an experience I had had in a past life.
Yeah.
Or would have sometime in the future, but like, don't take my baby. Don't take Romeo. Mm-hmm. So like a part of me kind of knew.
Wow.
But didn't. And looking back, there's a lot of signs. That day, actually, my last memory with him, my last clear memory, and I had talked about this before, but we were cuddling in bed and he looked up at me with these ginormous, deep brown eyes. And he puts his hand on my face and he goes, Mama, am I your angel? And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, you're my angel. And he laughed and he's like, haha, Mama, am I your stinker? And I'm like,
Aww.
Yeah, you're my stinker.
Yeah.
But he had never said that before. He had never used the word angel. And this was several hours before he literally became my angel.
Yeah.
So looking back at that gives me a lot of comfort, honestly.
Did you feel like he was always like, I feel like with babies, you always kind of feel like they're just like connected to the other side. Like, did you always feel very strongly that he was like super connected to that? Or like, is that something you thought about?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, completely. He's very connected. He could totally like see energy or see things that I couldn't see, and he'd point at them or talk about them and just all of that. Like, he was very connected, and I know like that bigger part of him was like giving me that little hint to look back at. And actually, so I have that memory, right? And then as we're leaving the apartment complex to go to the swimming pool that day, it's like 7:00 at night. He goes around the whole apartment and he says goodbye to everything in the apartment. He says, goodbye TV, goodbye couch, goodbye Blippi, goodbye friends, goodbye like toys. And like, that's not something totally uncommon, but it was a little bit like, I remember thinking it was a little bit odd that he said goodbye to everything in the apartment. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, let's go. And then we had gone to the swimming pool, and I remember this mom, she was there with her kid, and I can still see her face. She like lights up at seeing me and Romeo there. And
did you know her already?
I had met her a few times. And so I knew that she was looking for friends.
Okay.
Like, she was excited. I know she was excited to see me because she was wanting to make friends and that kind of thing. She was new to the area from Afghanistan.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I go and I walk into the pool area and I meet her halfway. Romeo, we're only here for a few minutes. Romeo runs ahead to go and play with her son, who is sitting at one of the benches. So I meet her halfway, and I remember what kind of stopped me at the spot where I stopped, because I relive this moment all the time, was, like I said, it was 7:00 at night, so there was a little patch of sun left. So I stopped to sit in the little patch of sun. And honestly, today, that's a huge symbol for me, the sun, because it's a play on words with Romeo. Mm-hmm. And he's full of light and he's my son. So it's just crazy looking back. But I stopped at this patch of sun to sit down and talk to her. And at this point, Romeo is out of my sight. I'm talking to her for just 2 minutes. And then I say out loud, "Where's Romeo?" I stand up and I look over to the bench where they went, and they're not there.
Did you feel something like was off, or were you just like looking for him?
I just felt at that moment like time to get up.
Okay.
But I hadn't before that. Like, mother's intuition is such a thing, but I had no intuitive feeling. It's almost like my intuitive feeling sat my ass down. And so I stand up and I say out loud, "Where's Romeo?" And I start looking around and I don't see him. I see her son, in the hot tub. And so I start walking forward towards the hot tub. And that's when I see Romeo is face down in the water. I, at this point, felt like I was in a dream. I was in literally my worst nightmare. It's like you're walking in slow motion and colors are like all mushy. And I'm just thinking like, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. I walk into the hot tub with my shoes, my clothes, right? I pick up Romeo and he's regurgitating water. His lips are blue. It's like, look, it's the worst scene that I have literally lodged in my head. I remember screaming, and the woman was screaming at this point. The little boy who was in the hot tub, he had no idea. And like, that's something I want to say too, is people, like, when they hear my story, they're like, how come you didn't hear him? Or they'll be upset at the little boy and they're like, how come he didn't do anything? But they don't understand drowning is a silent and deadly killer. Like, you don't hear anything. It's the number one cause of death for children under 4. And it happens under 30 seconds. So it's literally fast and silent. So anyways, I have Romeo in my arms at this point, and I know I'm screaming. People kind of gather around us and nobody really knows what to do. I'm trying to perform CPR on him. I had taken a class years ago, but I don't really know how to do CPR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And an ambulance came and had taken him to that first hospital. But I remember thinking in my head, like, when I had him in my arms, his soul was not in there anymore. Like, his body was still alive and regurgitating water and gasping for air, but his soul was not in there. And so we had gone to that first hospital. And by the way, I just want to say, like, when I retell this story, people kind of like look at me because I don't cry every single time I tell it. And they might look at me like, oh, you're just like, you don't care, or you're so detached. But honestly, it's like, this is literally my 50th time retelling this story.
Yeah.
I relive it every single day in my head.
Mm-hmm.
It never leaves me.
Yeah.
But to somebody who is listening to this for the very first time, like, I can understand how you would feel the emotions of it, and then might look at me like I'm some emotionalist bitch who doesn't care. But that doesn't mean I didn't cry myself to sleep last night.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's like a very big misconception that people have with grief.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a really good point, because I'm sure so many people that have gone through similar things, any type of grief, like, experience that.
Definitely.
Like, I'm not crying every single time because I've been crying all day, or like I've relived this moment 1,000 times.
Yes. I am constantly living with this.
Yeah.
This is my reality now. And actually, no, this wasn't just a dream. I live with it every single day.
Yeah. And how long, this is around the anniversary of when it happened, right? How long ago was it? What year was it?
So this was July 1st, 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are literally coming up on the 2-year anniversary.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. And it was really hard for me to talk about for a long time. So I'm glad I got that off my chest.
Yes. Good. So good to hear.
Yeah. So we had taken him to that first hospital, and I remember doctors were swarming around him and working on his body. The lights are like flickering, and I'm still just in this out of body state where I don't know what is going on. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what's happening. And I'm not crying at this point either, because I'm so removed from it. I'm literally still waiting to wake up from this nightmare.
Yeah. Today, you still feel that?
No, sorry.
Okay.
At that point.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I understand today.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was so like numb, and people were looking at me, and like nurses were trying to tend to me. And I just remember they were all wide-eyed looking at me, and like, I didn't know what was going on. And you're just kind of
like, this isn't real.
But it's almost like, I told you I'm a people pleaser. It's almost like, even at that moment when people were looking at me and trying to make sure I was okay, I wanted them to know I was okay so that they would feel okay.
Wow. Yeah.
So I would like almost pretend like I was okay. Mm-hmm. But no, I was not flipping okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're at that first hospital, and they didn't have enough equipment to be able to take care of him how they needed. So he gets life flighted from this hospital to a bigger hospital in Sacramento. So we go there, a bunch of family meets us there. And while we're there,
Did you get to go with him when he was life flighted?
No, they didn't let me. So it was a really fun, 2-hour drive to that hospital.
Yeah.
By the way, telling his dad what happened was one of the worst moments of my life. Having to literally talk to him on the phone, and he's already crying because somebody had told him that he got in a drowning accident, but he didn't know how severe it was.
Yeah.
And at this point, I don't know. I'm still hoping he's going to be okay. So I'm having to tell him yeah, he drowned on my watch. And then hearing him scream on the other end. Just scream. So we go to the next hospital, and we have a lot of family that meets us there. And at this point, doctors are talking to me, and the neurologist is talking to me, and she's telling me that it's not looking good. And she's saying that if he has any chance, he is going to be a vegetable at that point and has no brain function going on. But then I have other people texting me and sending me miracles of children who have drowned and made it through.
Yeah.
And telling me, don't trust the hospital.
Is that something that you wish people would not have done?
I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know. I just know for me, I had so much going on.
Yeah.
And every time I tuned into me and tuned into Romeo, I had that feeling inside that he's meant to go.
Yeah.
And I'm not meant to hold on to his body in this way.
Which must have been the most insane feeling. I can't even comprehend. And I would I feel like we all want to have control in our lives, and not being able to control that, the most important thing in your whole life. I can only imagine how you were feeling in that moment,
Yeah. Yeah. No, there was a lot of not feeling. It was very numb. Even looking back at photos from that day, I was not there. I was not experiencing it really. And I have that trauma inside of me still. So even looking back, it's still hard for me to feel it. So at that point, I just knew inside my soul that he was meant to move on. And I had talked to the doctors, and we had made the decision together to let him go. Actually, we had talked to a medium too. That was very helpful for us. I don't think everybody needs to do this, but for my situation, it was very helpful. We had talked to a medium in the hospital over the phone, and she had contacted Romeo with us. And it was it brought me so much peace. And to hear he was still alive in some way or some form, but honestly, even more alive than he was before. And at this point, it's the 4th of July. So this day was the 4th of July. And I just felt in my soul, okay, it's today. And the fireworks every single year remind me of his celebration of his new life that he's currently living.
Yeah.
Not just his old one. So that had brought us so much peace. And I remember we were laying down in the hospital bed when we had turned off the machines. And Caden, Romeo's dad, and I were sobbing.
Were you
holding
with him?
His body.
Okay.
Yeah, we were together at that time. So we were just sobbing while we were holding his body. And when you turn off machines on somebody's body, they instantly go cold, and you see their skin start to instantly turn color. So we're holding him, sobbing, and it almost was this surreal feeling of, this is not the end. Romeo lives on. This is not it. Sorry. So that was, I mean, yeah, that was insane. And it was such a blur, like going from the hospital to going home back to Utah, and then having to immediately plan a funeral.
Yeah.
So for us, we did a celebration of life, and we held it at Thanksgiving Point and
outside.
outside. Okay. Yeah. So we had his body cremated, and we released butterflies, and yeah.
And you have your butterfly tattoo.
I do.
So
and I'm wearing
cute.
a butterfly necklace, but today, like, butterflies are a huge symbol. Also, when I was in the hospital, I was wearing, somebody had let me borrow their sweatshirt, and it was a butterfly sweatshirt.
Oh my gosh.
There's just so many things. Yeah. And so we had released butterflies at his ceremony of life, and it honestly was just very beautiful seeing everybody come together, and all of the support we had was really incredible. But like I said, at this point, everybody's looking at me and wanting to make sure I'm okay, but I'm so removed from the situation. Like, I did not know what was going on, and I was very numb to what had happened. And I was fighting this inner conflict of, my son died, but I had to believe he was still alive. So I was like, I literally did not know how to feel, but because everybody was so concerned around me, I wanted them to be okay. So I was like, I'm okay. And like, looking back, I'm like, girl, you don't have to be okay all the time.
Yeah.
Like, freaking hell. That's what had happened with that.
Wow. Like, that is so, I just, yeah, like, just even him being here and then him being gone, you hanging out with him that morning and then talking to him and seeing this beautiful, vibrant human. And then he's just like,
oh yeah, no, it's insane.
Yeah.
And then having to go back to that same apartment and then I'm living my same routine. I'm doing the same things I was doing before, but this time without him.
Yeah.
I'm going to that same damn park that I went to every single day, but I'm going without my son.
Yeah.
So
is all of your family living in Utah at this point?
Yeah.
And you guys are in California still? Okay.
So everybody's in Utah, and honestly, the way that his dad and I grieve is very different. His dad threw himself into his work.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's just what he felt like he had to do. And it really hurt our relationship because I'm living in California, completely isolated from my friends and my family. He's working, but he's providing for me to be able to have the space I need to grieve, but I'm so alone. And I don't even feel like I can grieve with him because he's always gone. And so it was.
And then you probably just like don't want to, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like feel like a burden to people. Like, something that I've noticed a lot with grief, in my own grief, I feel like we all experience grief in a different way. Yours is a very, very tragic loss. And I think, like, when my aunt passed away, it was really hard for me. But I think the days after she passed away, I was numb. Like, I didn't, even her funeral, like, even all of that, I was just numb. And then 6 months later, I was hurting the most. A year later, like, that's when it really kicked in. But everybody kind of forgot. They think that you're doing good. You look like you're doing good. So it's just like, oh, whatever, you know.
For sure.
But it's almost like I didn't even need people. And I don't know if you can relate, but I didn't need people as much as I did, like, in those 3 days.
Yeah, you need them later.
Yeah, you need them later.
For sure. I can totally relate to that. Like, a year later, I'm like, wait, where is everybody?
Yeah.
So completely.
Because then it's actually kicking in. You're not as numb. It's not a dream anymore. It's reality.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And honestly, like, my story is an extreme example of what everyone can relate to, like you said. Like, at some point of everyone's lives, you are going to either you are experiencing some sort of pain or loss or grief, or you have, or you will in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's something everybody will go through. And for me, I've recently started posting on social media, and I love going on shows like this and talking about it because I found that it really helps me in my healing process to open up more and to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And honestly, every single time I've shared online, I've had like at least 1 or 2 people reach out to me and tell me too that it helps them as well.
Yeah.
So
it's also like, it kind of feels like it's this thing that like, for someone like me that, I mean, I've never had a child. I've never lost a child. Like, that's just foreign to me. Like, it's something I don't like know if I should bring up, if we should talk about. Like, I just have so many questions for you, like post all of this, like how people have reacted to you and handled the situation, and like what you have loved and what has not been helpful.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
After this all happened, so did you like join a support group, or did you go to therapy, or like how were you moving through these emotions?
It was hard for me. I honestly didn't really have the finances I needed to have the therapy and the support that I probably should. What's helped me the most though is just talking to people, like I said, talking to people like you and talking to other people who have gone through similar things. So that's what I have been doing. But sharing on social media, like I also said, has been very helpful. So I want to like create something on social media where other people who are experiencing extreme pain or loss or grief, and they don't necessarily have the finances to seek outside therapy or extensive help, can connect in and connect to other people who are going through very similar things.
Yeah, I think that's so needed for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's helped me the most. So.
Yeah. And it really is something, like, back to what you said, that everybody can relate to.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
Every single person, like, we all experience grief in some way or another. Yeah.
So one of the things that people say to me all the time is, I couldn't imagine. And I know we talked about this a little bit before, but do you want to share what you heard about that?
Yeah. So I was talking to my friend's mom about this, because she used to do like grief support groups, and she also is a chaplain. So she's always with people when they're like about to pass or talking to the family members. And so I was just calling her before our episode, because this is also, it's just like such a touchy subject, you know, like it just makes me so like emotional, and I just want to go about this in the best way. And so I was calling her, and I was just like, what's your advice for me? And she said, when you're talking to someone, she gave me like a lot of good pointers. Aww. Yeah, she's amazing. You need to meet her. But one of the things she said is, don't say I cannot imagine what you're going through. Say I can only imagine. Because
I love that.
Yeah, when you say I can't, it's like separating us. I don't get it. Like, goodbye. But like, I can only imagine is like, I am trying to put myself in your shoes.
Yes, I think that's a great tip for people to hear, because the number one thing I hear back from people is, I couldn't imagine. And like, yeah, I couldn't imagine either.
Yeah, literally.
Like, it's my worst nightmare, but I'm literally living it right now. And for me, I couldn't imagine not being a mother anymore. So like I said, that same routine I'm doing every single day, but now without Romeo.
Yeah.
And I just felt so lost not being a mom. And so my partner and I, we decided together that we wanted another baby. And we decided really fast that we wanted another baby while we were still in that numb grief state. And literally after like 2 times of trying, we got pregnant.
Wow. So how soon after was this, like since Romeo passed?
He passed in July, and I think we were pregnant 2 months after.
Wow. Okay. Tell us about that.
And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for...
What's your daughter's name?
Her name's Amara.
Amara. Okay.
Yeah. And she inspires me every single day. Like, she keeps me going. I don't want to tell other people who lose a child, like, just go and get pregnant and have another one, because it's been so freaking hard. But, I literally found myself in this position where I just lost my son, my everything. And now I'm pregnant, and I'm waiting for this daughter to come to this world, right? Yeah. So it's like, okay, I'm at the same time experiencing child loss, extreme grief, and experiencing pregnancy and extreme joy.
Yeah.
And so now I'm feeling guilty.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling guilty for feeling sad, and I'm feeling guilty for feeling happy. Like, that is no way to live, and you can't do that. And it's been such a freedom for me today to realize you can experience both incredible pain and incredible joy at the same time. They're simultaneous. It's not one or the other. It's not grief or joy. It's grief and joy.
I love that.
Yes. And for other people who are experiencing some kind of loss, I know it's a common thing that they feel so much guilt for feeling like if they're happy afterwards, they're moving on. You're not moving on.
Yeah.
You're moving forward with your life, which you have to do.
Yeah.
And what do you think they want you to do?
Yeah.
They want you to be happy. And that's where they connect to you the most, is when you are happy. So that's a huge thing that I love speaking about, and I love connecting with people on, because it's been an absolute freedom for me to hold my beautiful baby girl and love her and feel so much happiness with her, while at the same time being so sad I lost my son.
Yeah.
I'm feeling all of it.
And tell us from when you got pregnant till now. I would love to hear how it's been.
How it's been?
Yeah.
So I did not know how to process my emotions. Like I said, I felt guilty for every single emotion I felt. I would pray to my son, and then I would feel like I needed to give more attention to my daughter, and I wasn't praying to her enough. So I'm like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, it was intense. So I would say that this also made my relationship more strained than it was.
With your husband? Or
your
with boyfriend?
with my partner.
Okay.
Yeah. So it made us a bit more strained than it was before. And it just made it almost impossible to really connect. And there's a lot of resentment there as well. We lost our son on my watch. And that's something I have to live with every single day of my life. It's something I am constantly working on forgiving myself for. And then him, holy cow, I don't even know how to begin to feel how he feels.
Yeah.
I really don't. And he wanted to forgive me, wanted to just get there instantly. So by wanting to just instantly forgive me, he shoved down all of his feelings of anger, resentment, possibly hatred, and definitely distrust. So at that point, I had to tell him, I love you enough that I need to let you go. And that was the best decision for me in my life. And I think so for him as well. But so we had broken up about 7-8 months ago. And it's been this whole new journey now of oh my gosh, I lost my child. I have this new child. And then now I'm going through this divorce. It's bam, 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 huge major life events, one after another.
Yeah.
And I'm gasping for air and need help, right? I have this friend, Maddie. She has been an absolute angel for me. And I know 100% that Romeo has helped bring her in my life in this way. She has opened her home to me, so I'm living with her.
Aww.
And having support has been incredible for me. And now I am really just okay, who am I? Let's rediscover who Brie is.
Because you were you went straight into
motherhood and all of it. So I'm actually at this really exciting time in my life where I'm who am I? Let's figure that out. And it feels so freeing and so exciting and so fun. And I literally feel that I am co-creating my life with my son.
Aww, yeah.
Totally. I have so many ways that I communicate with him on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And he brings me people like you and situations like this. I am constantly being blessed and working with him in that kind of way. And it's beautiful. And he brought me, I'm dating this guy, you know who he is.
Yes.
His name is Connor DeLid. And I know for a fact, like Romeo helped bring me this beautiful man who has literally helped heal my heart from the inside out. And it's just been incredible.
Yeah. How did you guys meet?
So I love the story of how we met. We're careful about who we tell all the details to.
Yeah, smart. Yeah.
But we actually met from a mutual friend, Ayers, who introduced me to you.
Yes.
Love Ayers.
We love her. Thank you,
Love
Ayers.
Ayers. She introduces me to all the coolest people. So we met through her, but why we met is I was going with a group of people from Utah to Colombia for an ayahuasca retreat. And I had been praying for the right people to come on this retreat.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I had texted Ayers, like I felt pulled to text Ayers. There were a lot of synchronicities around this and Ayers and all of it, but I had texted her and she had linked me with Connor. And at that point, like, okay, there was some attraction, but we were just friends.
Yeah.
It wasn't about that.
Especially if you're going to go do ayahuasca together, you don't want to like really start a relationship right before that.
So we were just friends. And in Colombia, we had like totally just bonded on this whole other level, right? Because I don't know how much like your listeners know about ayahuasca, but you did just do a whole podcast about it. But like, we're in the middle of Colombia and we're staying at this retreat with a shaman and their tribe. And we're, like eating lunch with the shaman right before we go and do this 13-hour ceremony where people are puking their guts out and having extreme spiritual revelation. Oh, it was insane. And so connecting with Connor in that way was just really incredible. And we were just friends for this whole experience. And I love that part about our story because we really got to connect in that way. Right. And so it's so funny that last day of us being in Colombia, the whole group of people had left to go and hang out in the town. And so I'm hanging out with Connor and we're just friends. And I remember one of the first things he had told me when I met him was he wanted to go on this Colombia experience because he had heard that Colombian women were some of the most gorgeous women in the world.
You're so like, cool.
Obviously that caught my attention. Yeah. And I'm like, I definitely have that in the back of my head. Yeah. And so we're in Bogota. I think I pronounced that right. We're in the city of Bogota and I am sitting with him in front of this cathedral and it's like sunset, there's birds flying overhead of us, there's like live music going on. And I'm kind of pulling at him and playing with him and being like, so am I going to see you flirt with any like woman here, like Colombian woman? Mm-hmm. Do I get to see that? And he looks at me dead in the eyes and he's like, no. And I love this part. He's like, Brieocea, you are not going to see me flirt with any Colombian woman. And he's like, I like you. I don't want to be Connor, your Ambawasi, because that's where we did the retreat. He's like, I don't want to be Connor, your Ambawasi friend or your Ambawasi buddy. Like, I don't want to be in the friend zone. I like you.
Wow.
And that for me, I was
we
like,
need all men to take note of
I was
this.
like, okay, here's a man who's standing in front of me and has the balls to actually tell me he likes me.
Totally.
I needed that.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like sitting there like a little bit starstruck. And then I had said, well, I'm intrigued by you because I'm still playing a little bit.
Yeah.
And he goes, intrigued? I'll take intrigued. And then, so we're like sitting like 6 inches from each other's faces. And then he goes, are we about to kiss right now? And I'm like, no.
He's like, yeah, no, okay.
And he's like, no, okay, cool. That's what I thought. But anyway, so that was really fun. And today, like 6 months later, we've been dating for almost 6 months now, maybe 5 months. But he has been a total blessing in my life. I 100% feel that Romeo has helped bring him into my life, and he's really, truly helped heal my heart. with a lot of abandonment wounds I've had. And I told you about my childhood, right? Like I have had a hard relationship with men in general. I just have never really felt truly emotionally loved by any man.
Yeah.
And like him, he just totally accepts me in every single way. And it's been incredible.
He really is like the best guy. I just like you two together just makes so much sense, you know?
Yeah.
And I really think it's so cool. And like everything really, I do feel like is happening, you know, now like for you. Like, and it's so fun that Romeo, you feel is such a big part of your life still. And even maybe more than before, like, because you meeting Connor, like that's so powerful. Like, I feel like people that grow up with daddy issues or these things, like it's really hard to almost accept that love because you're not used to it.
Yes, it is. And it's honestly been a little bit awkward on my end. I'm like, is this guy for real?
Yeah.
Is his family for real?
Yeah.
Like the healthiest, loving family ever. I'm like, oh, I don't know how to fully accept it. And that's part of my journey and it's part of my healing process.
Has he like felt any like connection to Romeo kind of?
Yeah. He totally has. He has definitely also had a lot of synchronicities with Romeo, and it's a conversation that we have probably daily. We talk about Romeo all of the time.
Does he feel like he like knows him?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's so cool. That's amazing.
I know. And I mean, for any partner that I have, like I would need them
absolutely
to know Romeo. 100%.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have some questions for you.
Okay.
I think that if you haven't gone through a tragic loss like this, it's something that you don't understand, you know, like we all understand grief, but to different levels. And so I would love to hear like your experience in the way that people have approached you and maybe the not so helpful things, the helpful things. And yeah.
So I definitely want to say that to anybody who knows somebody who is going through loss or grief or whatever, number one, like lose your judgments on how they should grieve.
Yeah.
That's been really hard on me because people constantly look at me and they don't think I'm far enough in my healing process, or they think that I should be crying when I'm not crying, or they judge me for being on social media and posting that I'm in a happy relationship, right? Like it's almost like people kind of expect me to still be in bed covered in blankets. And I understand that. Like it's got to be really awkward for that person or uncomfortable to feel like, okay, they lost a child and they're doing okay. And I get that because I literally used to feel similar feelings to that when I would look at other people who would lose children or go through extreme loss.
Yeah.
And so now coming through the other end, I'm like, oh no, like it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
And I will never judge anybody for how they process their extreme trauma because now I know what it feels like. And so yeah, definitely like lose your judgments on how people should grieve or process their trauma or where they should be. And then number two, I would also say, just make sure to be there for them and support and to love them through every phase that they go through.
And like, maybe I feel like not be a fixer. Like not try to fix it, but just like hold the space.
Yes, a space holder. Yes. Yeah. And I love when people constantly check in on me. Like I get little texts from people of butterflies, and even people I've never met will send me butterflies or whatever it is. Like I love that. So like you had said, like right around the accident, I was so numb and not really feeling anything. But then 6 months later, a year later, like, okay, where are my people at? You know?
Totally.
So definitely.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad you're saying this because so many people need to hear this. And I think so many people are so curious how to approach this situation that sometimes they don't even approach it because they're scared they're going to offend someone that's been in this, or they're going to say the wrong thing, because you do hear the horror stories of people saying the wrong thing. And then it's like, you know. Yes,
or they're scared. Lots of people are scared to talk about Romeo around me. I love talking about Romeo. Like I want to talk about him. Yeah. So almost like not talking about him makes it more awkward. Yeah. Like it's some dirty thing that shouldn't be talked about.
Yes, totally. No. And So, one question I had is like, when people talk to you, do you like if they refer to him in the present tense or the past tense?
Oh, I mean, I love talking about him personally in present because that's where he is. Mm-hmm. He is literally living in the present moment.
Yeah.
Like he's not past tense in any kind of way. So that's how I'm going to talk about him. If somebody else talks about him in past, that doesn't necessarily hurt my feelings, but I'm not going to be embarrassed for talking about him like he's in the room right now because he probably is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
What are some things that have been like, oh, that did not sit right with me, that people have said?
Sorry, what?
Like things that people have said that maybe just weren't the best way to go about it.
I love how we said earlier, like, oh, I couldn't imagine, because you hit that on the spot. That always like irked me, but I didn't know why. But it does. It like separates them from you.
Yeah.
So that one was hard. And then also people will try often to push their beliefs on you. And I understand they're wanting to help and they just don't know how to, but it's just not the time or space to do that. Like kind of, you should probably wait for somebody to reach out to you to see if they need that. So definitely don't like push any kind of unwarranted advice or religious beliefs.
What would be like the best way to approach someone that had just gone through something like this? Like if you had a friend that just went through the exact same thing as you, how would you approach her?
And I have had friends.
Wow.
Like connecting with other people, right? Like I have friends now that have lost their children. So, I mean, how I'm there for them is I hold space, right? Don't judge and let them know that they're not alone. Like, I think when something like this happens, you feel very alone and you're not. There's so many people who are experiencing something similar or whatever they are experiencing in their different layers or degrees, right? We can relate to. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. Wow. It's just like so much to unpack. And I think like from what you're saying, I feel like just going into it with like just holding space and being like just love and light for that person, not trying to fix them or the situation, but just letting them kind of grieve in their own way. And I feel like sometimes you probably didn't even want to talk. You just needed somebody there.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I felt very alone. I just wanted to talk to somebody and I wanted somebody to tell me it was okay.
To not know and to feel.
Like it's okay to feel numb.
Yeah.
If you're feeling numb and you're not connected to your feelings, like that's okay.
Yeah.
Whatever shows up for you is okay.
Yeah. That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need you to teach a course on this. You know, I know. Like, help people through this process. Okay. And I'm curious, like, how do you honor him today? Honor Romeo.
Today, like I said, I talk to him all the time. So I have lots of, like, I'll be sitting in my car and I'll see an angel number or a butterfly or whatever it is, right? And then I'll just talk out loud to him like he's right there with me and thank him for being there. And I have blessings happen all the time in my life. And I just love to recognize him in them.
Yeah.
Right? Just recognize that he is still a part of my life. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
They're still here. They're not gone. They're more present than than any of us can even really imagine.
Yeah. That's so cool. I feel like, do you feel like when you're more open to that, you feel him more? Because I feel like some people don't have that experience, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's something all of us can experience, but you've got to be open to it. And when you first start experiencing synchronicities or whatever it is, your brain is going to constantly question it and you're going to think it's a coincidence or la, 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 la. But if you start allowing it in and letting it resonate and trusting it more and more, they get really loud where you cannot deny for a single second that was your person communicating with you or God communicating with you. You can do the same thing with God or your angels. Mm-hmm.
And it really is. So like, even in my experience, like, I feel like it's easy to be like, oh, that's just in my head, you know?
Right.
But it's like, you can choose to believe either one, you know, one that will make you happier or one that will make you a little bit like numb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
yeah,
just like leaning into the synchronicities. I love that.
Yes, lean into trusting that there is a higher power, there is a higher love, and your loved ones are right there with you, and they are very interested in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Your story is just so amazing, and I'm so grateful that you came on and you're able to share. And like, I'm so excited for all that you're gonna do, because I feel like you're just gonna be able to help so many people like really process this and get through this. And yeah.
Thank you. And like I said, like sharing helps me, number one. So like I love sharing for that reason, because I'm literally processing my trauma as I'm talking to you right now.
Totally.
So if that helps me, and then if that helps anybody else, I love that.
Yeah. Aw. You're amazing.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me on. Yes. I was so excited for this episode. Like I've been so excited ever since you started your podcast and watching your growth, and excited to see where you're going to go. Like it's been really cool. And I loved this one. I felt like we really unpacked a lot that I haven't even gotten to touch in other episodes.
Good.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we talked about this before, but like obviously you've experienced these really hard things in your life, and you've gone through this grieving process and all these things, but there's also so much light in your life. Like you said, like, I don't want people to look at me like I have such a sad life. Like I made it through, and I'm making it through every day. And like, there's so much beauty.
Yes. Yeah. I don't want somebody to look at me and hear my story and be like, oh, that's sad. Yeah. Like I feel bad for her. Like, no, there's so much more to me than what happened to me.
Yeah.
And there's so much to you than what happened to you.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm wanting to explore.
Yeah. Well, you literally did it perfectly on the podcast.
And
I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
I feel everyone's definitely going to go give you a follow. I'll add your Instagram on everything, but is that the best way for people to like find you?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm on Instagram. I want to start sharing more on TikTok. You could find me on TikTok.
Okay, cool.
Well,
I love you. You're amazing.
I love you.
The end.